Fall asleep to the entire story of the lying kingdoms of Nubia. The desert wind carries secrets older than time. Far beyond the golden pyramids of Giza, past the shifting sands and along the great river Nile, lies a forgotten story, the tale of powerful kings, warrior queens, and sacred rivers. This is the story of Nubia, the Lion Kingdoms, and how, for centuries, they rivaled the might of Egypt and sometimes ruled it. Long before pharaohs raised their monuments, the land we now call southern Egypt and northern Sudan was home to a people of striking power and culture. The Nile flowed like a silver serpent through the arid plains, giving rise to the first Nubian settlements as early as 3500 BCE. These were the lands of Ta-Seti, the land of the bow, known for their expert archers and fierce warriors. But it was not war that first made Nubia strong. It was gold, ivory, incense, and exotic animals. This southern land became a prize for empires and a power unto itself. And it was here that the kingdom of Kerma emerged. By 2500 BCE, Kerma had become one of the earliest urbanized kingdoms in Africa. Its people built fortified cities of mud brick. They adorned their tombs with elegant ceramics and cattle skulls, symbols of prosperity. Kerma's rulers wore robes dyed in the deepest blues and reds, and they oversaw a sophisticated society that traded with Egypt, the Levant, and even the lands beyond the Red Sea. Kerma's power grew slowly but surely. It wasn't just a neighbor to Egypt, it was a competitor, and sometimes an enemy. When Egypt weakened during its second intermediate period, Kerma raided deep into Egyptian territory. Nubian kings crossed the desert with armies and elephants, shaking the confidence of their northern rivals. Some scholars even believe that Kerma aided in the fall of Egyptian dynasties, a shadow power behind the Nile throne. But like all powers, Kerma's time waned. Around 1500 BCE, Egypt struck back under the new kingdom pharaohs. The armies of Thutmose and Amenhotep pushed south and Nubia was subdued. Temples were built, hieroglyphs carved into stone, and Egyptian governors ruled the land. But Nubia was never truly conquered in spirit. The memory of Kerma lived on, and as Egypt declined centuries later, a new Nubian power rose in the ancient city of Napata. Around 800 BCE, the kingdom of Kush emerged as a direct successor to Kerma. Its capital, Napata, stood at the foot of the sacred Jebel Barkal, a sandstone mountain believed to be the dwelling place of Amun, the god. Egyptian temples made offerings to the gods and had his victory inscribed in stone. He had not destroyed Egypt, he had claimed it. Piye founded Egypt's 25th dynasty. For nearly a century, black pharaohs from Nubia ruled the Nile Valley. Kings like Shabaka and Taharqa brought order to a divided Egypt. They restored temples, revived traditional religion, and challenged the growing might of the Assyrian Empire. Taharqa, the greatest of the Kushite pharaohs, would be remembered as a warrior king. His reign was marked by battle and beauty. He expanded Egypt's temples, fought Assyrian invaders, and became a legend both in Africa and the Near East. The Bible itself mentions him, a testament to his far-reaching influence. But even legends face defeat. Around 664 BCE, the Assyrians invaded with brutal force. The Kushites were driven back into Nubia. They had lost Egypt, but they had not lost their kingdom. From Napata, the Kushite kings moved southward to Meroë, a city of iron and fire. Nestled near the sixth cataract of the Nile, Meroë became the heart of a renewed Kushite kingdom. Here, the desert met the savanna, and rain fell more generously, feeding crops and forests. Meroë was a city of blacksmiths and builders. The Kushites developed a powerful iron industry, perhaps the most advanced in Africa at the time. They built temples and palaces, erected more pyramids than Egypt itself, slender, steep structures that dotted the horizon like the teeth of giants. And here in this golden age, the Kandakes rose. The Candaces, or Kandakes, were warrior queens of extraordinary power. Women like Amanarinas and the Manashaketo ruled in their own right, led armies, and negotiated with Roman emperors. When the Romans tried to extend their empire into Nubia, Amanarinas met them with sword and fire. She led a campaign against Augustus himself, sacking Egyptian towns and sending a delegation to negotiate peace. Rome respected her. They withdrew. The Meroitic kingdom thrived for centuries. It developed its own writing system, the Meroitic script, still not fully deciphered to this day. The people worshipped gods with both Egyptian and local names. They lived in circular houses, wore colorful robes, and adorned themselves with gold and beads. But the kingdom faced new pressures. Trade routes shifted. The rise of Aksum in Ethiopia challenged their dominance, and by 350 CE, the last echoes of Meroë faded into the sand. Yet, the legacy of the Nubian kingdoms endures. They were never simply southern Egypt. They were innovators, warriors, builders, and artists. They defied foreign rule. They crowned queens. They forged iron while others used bronze. And they built empires in the shadows of history. When the winds of the Nile whisper at night, they carry the memory of Kerma, Napata, and Meroë, the lion kingdoms of Nubia, forgotten by many but never truly lost. The roots of Nubian culture run deeper than conquest. In the earliest times, long before scribes inked their scrolls, the people of the Nile's southern curve worshipped nature itself, the river, the stars, the wind. Their deities were not born in stone halls, but in the reeds and rain. Their temples began as open-air sanctuaries, where the sacred was felt more than seen. In time, they carved altars from sandstone and painted animals on cave walls. But the heart of their faith remained elemental. As Nubia evolved, so too did its spiritual sophistication. The god Amun, who would one day watch over pharaohs, may have first been honored in the shadows of Nubian hills. At Jebel Barkal, the sacred mountain rising like a sentinel above Napata, priests lit incense and sang to the heavens. It was said that Amun whispered from the mountaintop, choosing kings and shaping fate. Later, Egyptian theology would entwine with local belief, but it never erased it. Instead, a unique fusion emerged, one where Nubian queens worshipped in Egyptian temples and priests spoke languages of both nations. Nubian governance reflected this balance between old and new. Kings ruled as divine intermediaries, but they also consulted councils and respected lineage. Succession was sometimes matrilineal, traced through the mother's line, giving royal women immense power. The Kandakes were not exceptions to the rule. They were the rule. Their authority was grounded not only in birthright, but in religious sanction, ritual knowledge, and military command. The architecture of Nubia bore the mark of its character, practical, elegant, and enduring. In the cities of Kerma and Meroë, homes were built of thick mud brick walls, domed for insulation against heat. Grander structures rose from the same material, reinforced with stone. Pyramids stood tall, not to mimic Egypt, but to speak in their own dialect of sacred geometry, narrower, steeper, more intimate with the sun. Burial chambers held offerings, painted murals, and texts that await translation. Inside the temples, the air was thick with myrrh and shadow. Columns bore the shape of papyrus and lotus. Reliefs showed gods with lion heads and sun discs. Crocodiles and music echoed through courtyards. Bronze gongs, harps, and rattles summoned the attention of gods and spirits alike. In daily life, Nubians were farmers, potters, merchants, and metallurgists. Children played in the dust by the Nile, chasing goats and painting with clay. Men fished with woven nets or hunted antelope across the plains. Women tended gardens, wove linen, and brewed beer in large ceramic jars. Families gathered under shade trees, sharing stories carried across the centuries by griots and elders. Nubian clothing was both functional and fashionable. Men wore kilts or tunics made of linen dyed in earth tones, adorned with leather belts and beaded necklaces. Women wrapped themselves in long dresses, often brightly colored, and decorated with cowrie shells, gold rings, and ivory combs. Hairstyles were elaborate, braided, coiled, or shaved in artistic patterns. Tattoos and scarification told personal stories of clan, courage, and coming of age. The city of Meroë became an industrial marvel. Its forges glowed with fire day and night. Iron ore was dug from the surrounding hills and smelted in clay furnaces. Blacksmiths hammered blades, plows, nails, and tools, the lifeblood of civilization. Unlike other ancient cities, Meroë's economy thrived on metallurgy. Some scholars call it the Birmingham of Africa, a center of industry thousands of years before Europe would match its scale. Meroë's economy was diverse and complex. Trade caravans brought goods from the heart of Africa, gold from the south, incense from the forests, slaves and cattle, leopard skins and ostrich feathers. From the north came glass, wine, bronze mirrors, and spices. Along the Red Sea, Nubian ports linked to Arabia and even India, making Meroë a hub in the early global economy. The city was not just a place of work, but of culture. Artisans crafted intricate jewelry, bracelets of gold filigree, earrings with carnelian stones, amulets shaped like lions or ankhs. Sculptors carved lions and bulls from sandstone, symbols of strength and fertility. Wall paintings depicted dancers in swirling motion, musicians lost in melody, and priests carrying sacred emblems across temple courtyards. Myth and legend shaped Nubian identity. Stories of lion gods and river spirits, of ancient kings born under eclipses, of women who walked with lightning. These tales lived not only in the temples, but in the hearts of the people. Every festival, every harvest celebration, every funeral procession echoed with drum beats and chants that reached back to the beginning. Diplomacy was as much a tool of Nubian power as the sword. Marriage alliances linked royal families across kingdoms. Nubian envoys traveled to Persia, to Egypt, and even as Meroë's power declined, its influence remained. Refugees, traders, and former nobles carried its customs across the continent. In Ethiopia, echoes of Kushite architecture appear. In West Africa, griots recall tales of black kings from the east. In medieval Europe, cartographers marked the land south of Egypt as Ethiopia, meaning simply the land of burnt faces. Centuries later, the sands buried their monuments. The pyramids of Meroë became whispers in the wind, mistaken for mere dunes. But memory endured. In 1821, European explorers rediscovered them. The pyramids astonished even the seasoned travelers. Who had built them? How had they remained untouched? Archaeologists began to uncover the truth. Tombs filled with treasures, inscriptions in Meroitic script, walls with images of kings riding lions, queens holding spears. Slowly, the world began to remember what it had forgotten. That civilization had not flowed only from north to south, but also from south to north.
Inscription segment 3.
Today, the
Possible
legacy of
royal
Nubia
countries
lives
variant.
on, in the names of
Unusual
children,
egg form.
in the rhythm of drums, in the beauty of black skin under desert light. It lives in the scholars who work to decipher the Meroitic script, in the women of Sudan who wear bracelets like those once worn by queens, in the music, the dance, the pride. To speak of Nubia is to speak of survival, of brilliance, of empire and spirit. So as you drift into dreams, know this, that far beneath the stars, where the Nile flows dark and deep, the lion kingdoms still stand, silent and strong, waiting to be remembered again.